Since the beginning of time, mankind has solved disagreements with war. For instance, from the late 1930s to the mid-1940s, World War II occurred because Germany did not keep its agreements with other countries. A repercussion of this was known as the Holocaust. The Holocaust took place from 1941 to 1945 and was known as a mass genocide that used brutality, racism, and inhumane treatment to kill off the Jewish race. The concentration camps that were used during the Holocaust were 7 camps located in a place in Germany, and the biggest one was named as Auschwitz. Experts say around 6 million Jews were killed during these 4 short yet long years. In the book Night, a survivor of the Holocaust named Eli Wiesel talks about his experience and tells about what everyone had to experience over these 4 years. In one quote, he writes, "In front of us flames the smell of burning flesh." Whenever he's telling this quote, him and a group of many other Jews were on a train heading to the concentration camps that they were told were safe areas until the World War II had ended. They thought they were going there to be saved. They thought they were going there to have a better life. They had no idea what was about to happen. But that first night, they saw and they smelt the picture of death. They were portrayed an image that was something, and then it was taken away from them that very night. Whenever the people got off the train, they were put into 2 different groups. They were put into groups which were laborers, where they were able to do tasks and do slavery work, and they were put into groups where they could no longer do work because of age or maybe a disability, and they were killed off right at the bat. The number 1 weapon for this killing in the 4 years was known as the gas chamber. This is the gas chamber that we see here. It's a concrete wall, and Jews were told to go into a separate room, take off all their clothing, and then go into this room where the doors were then locked, the lights were turned off, and Nazi soldiers poured carbon monoxide down into the airways, killing everyone who was in there. To this day, if you go to the Holocaust Museum, you can see the fingerprint carvings into the concrete walls of the building. This image is quite sad and mournful, but it showed that these individuals were grasping on to everything they had left, the only thing they had left at that. In the book Night, Eli also says, "Without haste and without passion, they killed us like prisoners." Every one of these individuals were killed, not because they were criminals, not because they harmed someone, but just because of their Jewish race. And not only were grown men and women and elderly people killed, they also killed off all the children that entered these camps if they were not one of the few that were able to escape like Eli. If racism had a part in this, then none of this would have occurred. If Adolf did not have the image of racism in his mind occurring like a little puppet show, then there wouldn't have been a genocide like there was. 6 million people wouldn't have lost their life in 4 years. Whenever the individuals were brought into the camps, they were asked to remove their clothing, remove their shoes, put away their luggage that they thought was going to be taken back with them once World War II was over. It had all their valuables in it because they didn't want to leave anything valuable or an heirloom. So this is a pile that we can see at the Holocaust Museum today. And each bag has a last name and an address to return to, or a new address where individuals were going to go once the World War II war was over. These individuals were stripped away from that. They were stripped away from their luggage, stripped away from family and their home life. They were stripped away from their shoes and their clothing, and they were given these clothes instead. These are some of the individuals that were in the camps. They're wearing white PJs almost that were actually only washed about once a year, with black vertical lines running across them. The image of jail, bars, and imprisonment is what run through most people's heads whenever they see the vertical black lines. They were stuck and they had nowhere to go. Their belongings were taken away. They didn't know what was going on. They were scared. They were starved. Eli writes, he didn't know if he was awake at the time, and he wrote, "Was I awake, or was it just a dream?" He was wondering how any of this could even happen or occur, and how people were letting it happen. The imagination of death was occurring to every single person because of the inhumane psychological treatment they faced on an everyday basis. They were underfed. They were mistreated. They were stripped away from everything they had. 6 million lives were taken during 4 years. 6 million lives were taken not because of a criminal act they did, because of their race.